All right, guys, so this is the last part of the middle childhood. We've talked about cognitive development, physical development, and now here is psychosocial. So some of the things we're going to talk about is the developing child, Erik Erikson's stage theory for social and emotional development, the child within the family and the child within the peer group, excuse me, and then bullying. So if things with the peer group are going well, when is it kind of teasing and when does it kind of veer into bullying? So I know that's a really hot topic right now. So the forgotten years, as I've been saying for the last 3 weeks, talking more about young children, 0 to 5, and then adolescents as well. The school children are maturing socially, and at this age, they really need support from adults to develop social and emotional abilities. So last week, we talked a lot about school performance and having somebody who can help you with homework and make sure you have a safe space to study, gives you lots of paper, does your spelling words with you, things like that. So a guardian or a parent or an adult or somebody who's just involved in your academic progress so that they can kind of help you start to develop those character traits that you need in order to become a really successful learner. Same with social and emotional ability. We need you to be able to regulate yourself emotionally and socially so that you can become a really productive person who's healthy inside and out. So emotional growth. At this age, they should be at 7. We talked about this. They know that other people have perspectives and emotions, so they're less egocentric. They now have this idea of self-concept, and they know that you have your own emotions, your own sense of awareness and things like that. A big part of this is social roles and social conventions with adults and peers. A lot of this is like rule-bound things, like when you lose at baseball, what does a good loser do, and what does a good winner do? You don't throw your bat when you're really mad because you missed something and possibly hit somebody with the bat. You don't think, oh, yeah, we won, suck it. So you're learning what are the social rules. What do other people want from you when you win or lose at baseball? And that's something you have to learn by trial and error. So you'll notice that a lot of times, like if they're playing Candyland at this age, which they love, it takes forever, but somebody typically wins and somebody typically loses. You kind of learn how to do that by being a sore loser or a bad loser or something like that. We really want to encourage the regulations of emotion, that balance concept, and how to be pro-social. Once again, we all know adults who don't do this, or as adults, we don't do all of these things all of the time. But the biggest thing is allowing them to express a variety of emotions. In America, we tend to like our positive emotions, happiness, joy, giddiness, love, things like that. But the human condition is to feel sadness, anger, frustration, things like that. So knowing that and by allowing people to express those things helps them understand, I have this feeling, I need to experience it, and then I need to do something with it. I need to understand that other people might feel anger or frustration. I can coax other people to feel those things. And then because I have these feelings, how do I act in a social situation? So if it's my birthday party and I didn't get the specific game that I wanted, I am upset. I'm sad that I did not get what I wanted, but is it appropriate for me to scream and cry now that they're really 8 years old? Do people expect that of an 8-year-old? Could an 8-year-old calmly talk to their parents about how they didn't get what they wanted? And then could the parents turn around and talk about being grateful and happy with what you got and things like that? But knowing that at 8, when you don't get the, Minecraft that you wanted, you might be feeling upset about it. I know, when I haven't, when I asked my husband for something specific for Mother's Day, my first Mother's Day as a mother, I asked for a specific gift, and when I got like the opposite of it, I was upset, and I had to express my frustration with my husband in the best, most mature way that I could, which may or may not have been. It might not have been very mature, but we all do those types of things. So we're helping and supporting children as we deal with this as constructive as this. So Erik Erikson, our wonderful stage theorist, has a great kind of stage for this, and it's called industry versus inferiority. So we want them to practice those adult skills that will help them feel like they're competent members of society. If they don't have opportunities to express themselves or to practice these skills, then they'll feel doubt. They'll feel inferior. They'll feel like they're incompetent. So we want them to gain real adult skills like reading, writing, chores, cooking, and like cooking, I mean like, well, at 7, making your own sandwich, spreading mayo and mustard on a piece of bread, putting deli meat on, that type of stuff. An 11-year-old might be able to flip pancakes, something like that. So adult skills, either in the home environment, adult skills in playing sports and playing with other people, and then academic performance skills of reading and writing. So they need to practice this. We want them to know this. Everybody needs to know that in order to go out into the world. If you are allowed to do that, you get a sense of mastery. I did it. I know how to read. I can be in my car and I can see that says boys. That's fantastic. Or that sign says stop. And when it says stop, I should stop at the stop sign. Those are things that we need to know. I learned that. I'm going to learn more. I want to know why Mercury is closest to the sun. I want to know why America has a president and England has a queen. Like, you have this innate curiosity, and when you practice it and things that really matter, it teaches the child to do it more. And it's productive. You want to play and you want to get a job and you want to go to school. So if you ever talk to an 11-year-old, they're already thinking about that. Like, they might even have a college choice. At 18, are they actually going to go there? Maybe not, but they're thinking, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a vet because I love animals. Or I want to be a doctor because I want to help people. 7 to 11-year-olds are already thinking about this because they want to be adults. But if you're not allowed to, if you're not given choices when you're little, like in preschool age, and if you're not allowed to read, or you're not allowed to butter your own toast, or walk to the mailbox and get the mail and come back in, if you're not allowed to do those things, then you're going to feel incompetent. You're going to feel less of. You're not going to have the intrinsic from yourself motivation. You're not going to want to do that. It's going to be from somebody else pushing you. Do better at school, do better at school, do better at school. We want them to learn. We want them to master skills so that they can have that motivation. So who helps us the best with this is our family. So our family remains a vital influence throughout our whole life. I'm recording this in my house, and my parents are watching my youngest daughter so that I can take a couple hours and record this. So for some of you, it might be less of a force right now, but they have influenced us. The people that we grew up with have influenced us in some way. In our school age period, though, when you're going to school, you're meeting new peers, you're playing with them for 6 to 7 hours a day. That's a huge amount of time. So your parents need to oversee and they need to help your child get these self-regulations, but they also need to know that you're moving more out in the world. So with your family, when you do something that you're not supposed to do in this age, a 7-year-old, is playing baseball, classic situation, ball goes in the window. Should you lie about it? Should you tell your parents about it? Should you work hard to pay off the window? That type of stuff. The parent is going to help you decide, okay, you messed up. You did something you weren't supposed to. What do you do now? What is the consequence? How can we process this? How can we work together to make this right? So it's not so much of the consequences and boundaries of our preschoolers, like when you hit somebody, you have to walk away. You can't be part of this situation anymore. There's a consequence for your action. Now the consequences are typically much more within society. Like, so if you break the neighbor's window, the neighbor's going to be pissed and they're not going to want to pay for that. I don't want to pay for it because I didn't do it. What are you going to do about it? And then the parent should help. So you hurt this person's window, it's broken, it costs $50. It costs $150. I'm going to pay for it now, but you need to pay me back because I didn't break that window. How are you going to start paying this off? What kind of extra chores can you do? How can you help your grandmother after school, working off this debt that they owe, something like that. Explaining why a behavior is unacceptable, and then having them listen to you and logically kind of process the natural consequence. A big issue, though, is poverty. So the interesting thing about this is from 2013, and this is children in middle childhood by family income. So about half, 45%, are low income, either below the poverty line. I think it's about 22% are near poor, so hovering about the poverty line is 23%. If you don't know what the poverty line is, people always say that. So for a family of 5 to live on $24,000 or less, that is the poverty line. That's really, really, really low. $24,000 is a parent bringing in roughly $2,000 for a family of 5. So that's 3 kids and 2 parents. That's not a lot of money. And in Southern California, that's basically undoable. Your rent is basically $2,000, or between 15 if you're lucky to 2,000. So in this case, you actually couldn't live. You couldn't have shelter and do anything else with that amount of money. So you would have to have some kind of social service as well. And then the airport is kind of around that general area. There's a think tank that thinks that in San Diego County, a family of 5 needs to be making between $70,000 and $80,000 a year in order to not need social services. There are a lot of variables in that. It's a very debatable statistic, but I think it gives an idea of how different the poverty line is between in the high cost areas, what the actual cost of living and providing for yourself entails. So we know that 18% of children live in poverty, so the poverty line and below. And this affects your family, your school performance, and your ability to self-regulate. It has been documented that the kind of chronic stress of not having money or not knowing where your next meal is, or not being able to get to school because you can't walk the 2 miles, or your parent can't get you there, or they're too tired to take the bus. Things like that also helps, also puts your ability to self-regulate. So food, money, housing, medical care can lead to parental stress, which then can also lead to the stress of raising children, which can have impacts on children's psychosocial or social emotional development. Targeted social support and educational programs can combat the stress and status issues. So, and socioeconomic status issues. So, after school programs that parents can work longer, but that are safe and healthy for children to take part in. Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, things like that have targeted social support that should be able to help parents work more, go to school to have better jobs, and then education, so free education for all, so that it doesn't matter what level of socioeconomic status you are in, you're still getting the same appropriate education that should help you and give you a safe spot to learn. Like family structure as well, divorced and separated parents, co-parenting. And that's not to say that these children are necessarily worse off or are going to suffer socially and emotionally. The thing is that it's the instability that some of these situations might create, moving, changing schools, divorcing parents who don't get along or who argue, that will have an effect on the children. It can be mitigated, mitigated. So if you have moving, changing schools, instability, if your parent is secure and you have a strong attachment and bond with them, and you support your child and you're kind to your child, and you take them to school and you have all these things for them, then the social emotional aspects will be not as much. You have the attachment, you have the love for somebody. So even if your family situation is violent or unstable, having that bond will help you socially and emotionally. We also know that single parent households can be more affected economically because you've lost there should be child support or alimony or palimony or something like that. But it can be affected economically if those are not being paid, which can lead to some instability as well, having to move schools or move apartments constantly. And that can lead to some poor academic achievement as well. Once again, this type of stuff can be mitigated with a strong attachment and bond from a parent who's really working to meet the social, emotional, and academic and physical and cognitive needs of their child. And it also has to do with quality childcare. So before and after care, quality education, having a good place for the child to go when you're a single parent also has to do with it a lot as well. So I did want to talk about divorce rates. So we know that it remained quite low for quite a while. And then in the 70s, there was a lot less stigma about it. And there were some changes within religion as well, which led to it kind of going quite high. So over to the side, this is per 100 married women. At the height of it, about 23 out of every 1,000 women were separated or divorced. And this kind of peaked in the 80s when I was a child, and then it has steadily decreased into the 2000s. So it's now less than 20. So it has been decreasing, but I just want to bring up that it doesn't matter your family structure. The most important thing is that there is a parent or guardian who has a strong emotional bond with you and is doing the best that they can to meet all of the needs that you have. Children in after school as well. So 71% of mothers work. And then 28 million school-age children who have both parents or a single parent who works. So it's a lot of children. So 15 million children go home alone every year, and this is from 2009. That's the most current statistic I have. But children should have supervision during the middle childhood stage. You know, there's some debate about 10, 11 years old. How long can they be left alone? You're going to run to the store. You can leave your 10-year-old at home. For the most part, children at this age should be going to an after-school program, or they should be picked up by a parent, guardian, or babysitter, and they shouldn't be going home alone. In public schools, we have lots of different types of programs. We have public schools have some after-school programs. They're typically targeted towards single families, divorced families, or they target them towards populations who may need them. Then there's childcare centers like Discovery Isle, the ones that you see out and about, those big corporate ones. They now have buses. They'll pick children up before and after first grade or second grade or something like that. Then there's independent after-school programs, the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club. Then there's faith-based programs, churches, synagogues will have before and after school as well. And then FCCs is family childcare, so like daycares that you run out of your home. You go and you pick up children. Typically you'll pick up your own child, and then you'll watch that you'll get money to pay for maybe another child as well. I bring this up because peer groupings are a huge issue, and a lot of it is at recess time, lunchtime, and then at before and after school care. So we know that children need to engage in peer groupings and develop strong bonds with a few friends. So this is the age, like if you talk to a 3-year-old, every single person in a classroom of 20 is their best friend, and they love them. You know, sometimes they'll have a personality conflict, excuse me, but for the most part, most 3 and 4 or 5-year-olds get along with everybody. About kindergarten, first grade, they start to kind of click off. And that's okay. We want that to happen, but we want it to be about interests. So when I would run an after-school program, we would have like a newspaper club, we would have book clubs, we would have soccer club, we would have like the small groups going in. It would be like by interest area. And then this would allow them to make their friendships based off of what you like and not off of more arbitrary things like boy, girl, or race, or language spoken, or things like that. So it was more on interests, and that also had some great social bonds for the kids that like my after-school kids would write their own newsletter. So this would be like a monthly newsletter. The teachers would write one actual dates that you need to know about, and then the kids would write one, like they would write poetry and pictures and investigative, hard-hitting things about snacks and who likes Cheetos and who likes Cheez-Its, that type of stuff. They really liked that kind of stuff. Not only was it Erickson industry, they were given an adult task writing things that everybody was going to see, but the kids who really were into this got to do it, and they would have some really strong bonds with their friends and their peers as they did this together. For some of the other kids that came off of school and just needed to like run for an hour and a half, they were a very kinesthetic learner. They need to move with their bodies, and they needed to just get this excess energy out. We had like after school outside things where they would engage in soccer and flag football and stuff like that. And that also was an interest area. So we know that children are moving away from their parents. They're having their friendships. They're spending lots of time in school and after school programs. So we want them to have these strong bonds, but we don't want it to veer into the negative, and that's more of the bullying. So bullying is unprovoked aggression intended to inflict injury or discomfort on the victim. It can either be direct or indirect. So we know that boys can be more aggressive, and it's more hitting and being aggressive physically, while girls might be more indirect, socially isolating and gossiping about others. We want to discourage this kind of behavior. We want to encourage peer groupings, having close friends, doing interests, cooking clubs, soccer clubs, stuff like that. And we want to decrease gossiping and hitting. So at this school age, middle childhood age, we want to also be aware of the cyberbullying, which is a little hard for me to talk about because I'm not very tech savvy. I mean, I can professionally, I can do certain things, but I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram. I hate social media. And so I don't know what I'm going to do as my children have more of an online presence, because I was born in 1981. The internet really didn't come of age until kind of the late 90s. I got my first email address when I was 19. Now you get email addresses like at, I don't know, my nephews have them. They're super young. I don't know, not super young, like 10. But so we know that cyberbullying, there can be devices, so it can be after school, and there can be real implications of you leave school, you think you're not with these people anymore, but they're saying terrible things about you online. So we know that this is happening. I know that parents need to have some kind of, and when I talk to my sister-in-law and brother-in-law who have my older nephews and nieces, about, they put limits on like the Netflix of like age level things that they can see until they hit 14. They have a private profile on like Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. And then their parents also have control over it. I'm a little confused about it, but they have some kind of influence and supervisory role about what is happening in this online sphere, which can be quite virtual, and then it can be quite real. I mean, I'm lecturing to you, you're hopefully absorbing this information and then getting a good grade in the class. So I've met some of you, but some of you I'll never meet. You will always be virtual teacher-student relationship, but it's still real in that you get an A, hopefully, in the class at the end. So it's a virtual world, but it has real life implications, and that's the same for the children in the school age, and so we need to have some kind of supervision of that. But it's difficult for some of the parents that are older like me that didn't grow up with technology. How am I going to supervise? Hopefully for you that are younger than me, you have better ideas about this. But we just want to focus on the positive. We want to take the good parts of social media, and we want to take the good parts of the internet, and we want to take the good parts of children having close bonds with their friends and focus on cooperating, negotiating, talking, resolving problems, things like that. That's the good things that they should be working on. So a conflict is not inherently bad. They just might need a parent or an older peer to come by and say like, oh, why are you guys fighting? Could you do this? Could you do that? Why don't you try that? Or what do you guys think? What's a good compromise? Things like that. If we don't let children work through conflicts, then they're going to end up getting into adulthood and not know how to do it. And then nobody's going to want to hang out with them, because life is full of conflict. It's full of you not getting what you want. And if you haven't experienced that and you don't know how to work with others, how successful can you be? So allowing children to do that in the social spaces with kind of supervision that's there, that keeps them safe and prevents bullying, but also gives them a little bit of space to try to work out with people and argue, and I'll do this, you do that, okay, that's fine, or whatever. So that's kind of my thing on bullying. It's a very hot topic thing, where especially cyberbullying, people commit suicide as they get older in adolescence from cyberbullying. So we know that there's a lot of real life implications, or just physically being bullied by others when you go to school, your school performance suffers. And we know this, and people are more aware of this. And so I do want to talk about the positives of this age and that they want to have their close friendships. And then how can we kind of know what bullying is, and how can you kind of be aware of it and try to stop it if possible. So in conclusion, children are moving away from their families. They're entering into school, they're learning from their peers, they're working with their peers, they're hopefully learning how to cooperate, negotiate, and have conflicts be resolved with their peers. But they need this opportunity to practice those real life skills of reading, writing, negotiating, cooking, cleaning, walking, talking, all of these things. If they can't practice it, they'll lack that motivation. They won't really want to do a lot of different things. So we want them to work and try to do these types of things. We also need the families to support we need the families and the schools to support their peer groups that they want to have close friendships, and provide supportive and stable caregiving that really supports the child, supports the friendships, and then society-wise have social services set up to support families so that they can kind of support their own child. So that is it for this lecture on psychosocial development for middle childhood. I will see you guys online. Thanks so much.